How did one late night at the office end with divorce papers dropped into my hands in my own lobby at work? Why did my husband stay so calm while my boss and coworkers watched me fall apart in front of security and HR? What do you do when the man you called insecure is the one holding all the proof? Before we dive deeper into the story, I have one small request. Please subscribe, drop a like, comment, and hit that hype button to boost this channel so more people can discover these incredible stories. My name is Evadne Caro, and I am not the villain in my own story, no matter what people say now. I am the one who tried to grow, to do more than just cook dinner and fold laundry. Tom never understood that. He said family was enough. I said respect follows results, and I had results. That night started like many others. The kitchen smelled like tomato sauce and dish soap. Leah sat at the table, drawing little cats with big round eyes. Tom stood at the counter, looking at his phone in that stiff way that always annoyed me. He asked why I was home so late every day now. I said we had a big campaign and my boss needed me. He asked why my boss always needed me and not the others. I said it was because I was good at my job. In my head, I added that some men just cannot handle it when their wife is in demand. He looked at the clock and then at me. He said Leah missed me at bedtime last night. I said Leah would survive, and it was only for a few weeks. He asked why I could not answer my phone after 9. I said we were in meetings and brainstorms, and that he did not understand how corporate life worked. I told him he should be proud, not suspicious. Leah asked if I would be home to read her story that night. I smiled and told her I would try, but I had important work. She nodded, but her little shoulders fell. Tom noticed and gave me that quiet, judging look. I hated that look more than yelling. At least yelling would mean he cared. The silent disappointment felt like him saying I was already wrong just for wanting more. I grabbed my laptop bag and my blazer. My phone buzzed with a message from Cassie. She asked if I was going to be stuck with my work crush again. I laughed and typed that he was not my crush, just my charismatic boss who actually saw my talent. Tom asked who I was laughing with. I said it was just Cassie, and I walked out before he could say anything else. The air outside was cool and sharp. The office tower downtown always made me feel important. The glass doors slid open like they knew me. When I stepped onto our floor, the lights were low and most desks were empty. Only a few screens glowed. The faint hum of the printer and the smell of stale coffee filled the room. Adrian stood by the window, tie loose, sleeves rolled up. He asked if I was ready to save the quarter again. I said someone had to. His smile made my chest feel warm. With him, my ideas were big and exciting. At home, my ideas were just extra work. We started going over the slides for the client. He moved close, pointing at numbers on my laptop. His shoulder brushed mine. I told myself it meant nothing. He did this with everyone, I thought. It was his way of leading. He said my changes were brilliant and that he did not know what he would do without me. I said he would probably be lost in his own chaos. Around 9, he ordered food in. I checked my phone. 2 missed messages from Tom. One said he was putting Leah to bed and she wanted to say goodnight. The second asked if I was close to done. I told myself he was trying to guilt-trip me again. I turned the screen face down and kept working. Later, around 10, I picked up my phone again. I snapped a photo of the conference room table with my laptop open and some scribbles on a legal pad. It was taken earlier, but that did not matter. I sent the picture to Tom. I wrote that we were still in the conference room and he should not wait up. He responded with just one line asking if I was safe. I showed the message to Adrian and said my husband was overreacting again. Adrian said some men were threatened by strong women. I said that was exactly the problem. The work was mostly done by 11. The building felt empty and quiet now. Adrian leaned back in his chair, stretched, and said we should celebrate because the client was going to love this. I said maybe another time, but my voice did not sound very firm, even to my own ears. He suggested the hotel bar next door. He said we could just grab one drink, talk about career paths, get my promotion plan clear. That word, promotion, did something to me. At home, I was just mom and babe. At work, with him, I was key talent. I told myself it was networking. It was harmless. Tom would turn it into a drama if I told him, so I simply did not. The hotel bar was dim and soft, with low music and mirrors behind the bottles. We sat at a small round table. He asked about my goals and where I saw myself in 5 years. I said I wanted to lead a team and not just serve coffee and slides to people who did less than me. He said he could see that. He said he already trusted me more than some managers. The drink warmed my throat and loosened my words. I checked my phone again. There was a photo from Tom of Leah sleeping with her stuffed giraffe. He wrote that she waited for my call. I felt a small stab in my chest, then pushed it away. I told myself this was temporary, and she would thank me later when I could give her more. Adrian moved his hand to my lower back as he walked me to the bar for another drink. The touch was natural, smooth. No one looked surprised. I told myself this is just how high-level people are, more open, more physical. I thought, if I tell Tom, he will twist this into something dirty. So I did not tell him at all. When we left the bar, the lobby was almost empty. The carpet was thick, and the lights were soft and gold. Adrian mentioned he had a room upstairs because he lived out of town. He said it casually, like it was nothing. My heart beat faster. A voice in my head said this was a line. Another voice said I deserved one night of feeling wanted and seen. We moved toward the elevators, and then I saw her. Maya stood by the front desk with a tote bag over her shoulder and her badge still hanging from her neck. She looked like she had just finished some late design revisions. Her eyes went from Adrian's hand on my back to my face, then to the elevator. Her mouth opened a little, but she did not speak. For a second, I froze. Then I smiled at her, too wide. I lifted my hand like everything was normal. I told myself she would think we were just moving to a quiet spot to talk about work. I told myself she was young and shy and would never say anything. I told myself so many things in that one moment that it almost drowned out the small, sharp voice saying this would not stay secret. The elevator doors slid open with a soft chime. Adrian stepped in first. He held his arm out toward me like it was already decided. I walked in, feeling Maya's eyes on my back. My phone buzzed in my hand. I did not look at it. I pressed the button for his floor and watched the doors close, cutting off the sight of her staring at us in the lobby. The next morning, I woke up with a dry mouth and a heavy head. The hotel room was too bright. Adrian was in the shower, humming. My phone lay on the nightstand with the screen full of missed notifications. There were 3 messages from Tom, one from my mom and one from Cassie. I felt my stomach twist. Then I told myself it was only guilt training, not real guilt. Tom had written that he hoped I got home safe and that Leah asked where I was. Then he had asked again if everything was okay because I was not answering. The last message said he would talk to me in the morning. My mom had sent a picture of Leah at dinner, with sauce on her chin and a silly smile. Cassie had sent a voice note asking if I was still networking. I did not answer anyone. I decided the story would be simple. We worked late, had a drink. I crashed at a female coworker's place because I was too tired to drive. It was not even a full lie, I told myself. Just a version of the truth that did not hurt anyone. On the way home, the city looked soft and grey. I watched people walking their dogs and jogging, living their small lives. I told myself I was moving up, stepping out of that small circle. By the time I reached our apartment building, I had fixed my hair and touched up my makeup so I did not look like I had just left a hotel room. Tom stood in the kitchen when I walked in, already dressed for work. He looked at the clock, then at me. He asked what time I got home. I said late. He asked where I slept. I said at a coworker's place because it was closer. I spoke calmly, like it was no big deal. He asked why I took so long to answer. I said my phone was on silent, and that he knew we were working on a big presentation. He did not shout. He just nodded slowly and said he wished I had let him know I was okay. That annoyed me. I told him he was trying to make me feel bad for being committed to my job. I said most husbands would be proud. He said he just wanted honesty and safety. I said he had both, and that he needed to stop acting like I was a teenager. Leah ran in, still in her pajamas. She wrapped her arms around my waist, asked if I would be home for bedtime this time. I crouched down and hugged her, smelling her shampoo and sleep. I promised I would try. In my head, I added that my career could not always revolve around bedtime stories. She would understand when she was older. On the bus to work, Cassie sent more messages. She asked if anything happened with Adrian. I replied that we just had drinks and talked about my future. She said that was basically the same thing and called it main character energy. I rolled my eyes but smiled. At least someone understood that I deserved more than a quiet life and a nervous husband. When I arrived at the office, the atmosphere felt a little strange. People looked at me in a different way, or maybe I just imagined it. Maya was at her desk, headphones on, eyes fixed on her screen. Usually she smiled when I came in. This time she only gave a small nod. I told myself she was just tired. In the break room later, a few coworkers gathered around the table with coffee and pastries. Someone asked how late Adrian had kept me. I said too late, but it was worth it because we were saving the client. I made a joke that my husband probably thought I was having an affair with Excel. People laughed. I added that he got jealous if I even said the word late. There were smirks and chuckles. It felt good to have them on my side. Maya stood by the sink, rinsing her mug. She glanced over when I said my husband could probably accuse me of cheating if I looked at another man for too long. I said it loudly on purpose. One coworker said some men were like that because they were insecure. I said exactly, and that Tom was lucky to have someone as loyal as me when I could do better if I wanted. The room went quiet for a second after that, but I pretended not to notice. Later that day, Adrian acted a bit more careful. He kept his distance at his desk, talked to me only about work details. I told myself he was just busy. When we were alone for a moment in the small meeting room, he asked if everything was okay at home. I said my husband was being dramatic and needed to adapt to my growth. Adrian said these things were tricky and that we should keep everything professional for now. The word "for now" stuck in my head. I tried not to show I was annoyed. By late afternoon, I was tired and hungry. I checked my phone and saw a message from my mother. She said she was coming over for dinner with my father and that Tom had invited his mother too. She wrote that it was good to clear the air and told me not to let Tom push me around. I felt heat rise in my chest. Of course, Tom had gone running to the elders, I thought. At home, the place smelled like roasted chicken and herbs. Tom had cooked. The table was set, which he almost never did in such a careful way. Leah had drawn little place cards with everyone's names. She showed me mine with a heart over the I in Caro, even though there is no I there. I smiled and kissed her head. Tom watched us with that quiet, careful face. Helen arrived first, wearing too much perfume and a loud scarf. She hugged me and whispered that she hoped I was not letting Mr. Jealous control my time. My father followed, giving me a soft pat on the shoulder and asking if work was still busy. When Tom's mother Janet came in, the air in the room changed. She hugged Leah tightly, then hugged me, but her eyes were serious. At the table, Tom asked how my big night at work went. His voice was even. I said it went great and that Adrian was thrilled. My mother asked if my boss appreciated me more than my husband did. She said it with a laugh, but the meaning was clear. My father shifted in his chair. Janet looked straight at me and then at Tom. Tom said he just wanted to be sure I was safe and honest. He said staying out all night without clear information worried him. I raised my eyebrows and said in front of everyone that some men could not handle a successful wife. I said he would rather I stayed small and close to home. My mother agreed loudly and said many men were threatened when women climbed higher. Janet spoke softly and said that trust was important and that both spouses should be open. I took that and twisted it. I said I was open and that Tom was the one who did not share his feelings until he exploded. I said he had called and messaged me like 10 times, making me feel like a child, when I was just trying to work. Tom did not correct the number. He only said he was worried. Leah looked from one adult to another, confused. She asked if Daddy was mad at Mommy. I smiled and told her Daddy was just a little insecure and needed to relax. Janet's jaw tightened. My mother shook her head and said in a clear voice that Leah should know her mother was a strong woman and that some men could not handle that. I felt like I was winning. Every time Tom tried to speak, I made a joke or turned it into a sign of his control issues. My mother backed me. My father stayed quiet, chewing slowly. Janet asked Tom if they could talk later. He nodded. Near the end of dinner, when people started to put down their forks, I took out my phone to show my parents some pictures from work. As I unlocked the screen, a notification banner slid down for a second. I saw a name that made my heart skip. Maya P. Can we talk about something I saw the other night? It might be important. Tom's eyes followed the movement of my phone. I quickly flipped it over, screen down, and laughed, saying it was just work stress. I told myself Maya was just young and confused. She did not understand context. She would stay quiet. She had to. I pushed the thought down and took a sip of water, talking louder, filling the space so no one would notice my fingers shaking around the glass. The message from Maya sat in my inbox all night. I saw it again in the morning when my alarm went off. She said she wanted to talk about something she saw the other night and that it might be important. I stared at it for a long time. Then I closed the app and told myself she was overreacting. Young people today think every little thing is a crisis. In the kitchen, Tom moved around quietly. He made Leah's breakfast and put her lunchbox together. He asked if I had a busy day. I said every day was busy when you were actually going somewhere in life. He asked if everything was okay at work. I said it was fine and asked why he was acting weird. He said nothing was wrong. That answer always annoyed me. When someone says nothing is wrong in that stiff voice, it means they are judging you and hiding it. Leah asked if both of us would come to her school art show next week. I said, of course, if work allowed it. Tom said he would be there for sure. He looked at me when he said it, like he knew I would not. I told myself he wanted me to feel like a bad mother, so I would shrink my career back down. On the way to work, I listened to voice notes from Cassie. She said I should be careful, but she said it with a laugh. She told me to enjoy the attention from Adrian and not let some awkward junior designer ruin the vibe. I agreed. I decided I would answer Maya later, maybe tell her she misunderstood and that it was just work, nothing else. At the office, the air felt tense again. Maya gave me a short greeting and then kept her eyes on her screen. In the morning stand-up meeting, she barely spoke. Adrian acted like always, but I could feel a thin space between us now. He thanked me for my work in front of the team, but he did not look at me as much. Around noon, my phone buzzed. It was Tom. He asked if I minded if he met someone from my work for coffee. He said they had reached out about something important. My stomach dropped. I asked who. He said it was Maya. I stared at the message, my throat tight. For a moment, I considered telling him not to go. Then I caught myself. If I said no, he would know I had something to hide. So I typed that it was fine, and that she was probably just stressed about the project. I added that she was young and dramatic. I thought if I framed her that way now, he might doubt her later. I sat there, watching the typing bubble appear and disappear, until he just replied that he would keep it respectful. The idea of them together in some coffee shop made my skin crawl. It felt like betrayal, even though I was the one who had actually done something. I told myself he was crossing a line by talking to my coworker behind my back. I told myself that was worse than anything I had done. I could not concentrate the rest of the afternoon. Every time my phone buzzed, I hoped it was Tom saying Maya cancelled. Instead, the only new message was another short note from Maya saying she hoped I did not mind that she had reached out to him because she thought honesty was important. I wanted to throw my phone against the wall. I typed a reply and erased it 3 times. In the end, I wrote that it was fine and that I was glad she cared about truth. I almost choked on the word. Tom came home later than usual that evening. He hung his jacket by the door, took off his shoes, and greeted Leah as if everything was normal. He asked about her day, sat with her while she did homework, and even helped her with a math problem. I watched from the kitchen, feeling like a stranger in my own home. After Leah went to bed, he asked if we could talk. He used that calm voice again. We sat at the dining table. He folded his hands in front of him. I crossed my arms. He said he met Maya that afternoon. He said she told him she saw me at the hotel with Adrian. He said she described my dress, his hand on my back, the time, and even the way I laughed when we walked into the elevator. My face felt hot. I wanted to deny that I was even there, but the details were too clear. So I did the only thing that made sense to me in that moment. I attacked the source. I said Maya was obsessed with Adrian and jealous of me. I said she twisted normal work things into something dirty because she was insecure about her place on the team. I said, of course, she would tell a story like that to a married man because it made her feel important. Tom did not raise his voice. He just watched me and asked why she would risk her job to lie about me. I said maybe she wanted his sympathy or wanted to cause drama. I told him he was being naive. I reminded him that he barely understood my work world and that he was letting some junior designer fill his head. He said it was not just her word. He said my timesheets did not match my story. He mentioned the Uber charge to the hotel, not home. He mentioned the way I ignored his messages and then sent a picture from the conference room that must have been taken earlier. I felt trapped. Again, I flipped it. I said it was creepy that he was going through all those details. I said most husbands would trust their wives instead of playing detective. I said his behavior felt like emotional abuse. I told him he was making me feel unsafe in my own house with his suspicion. His face changed at that word, hurt and anger mixing. That almost made me feel powerful. He said he just wanted the truth. I said he already decided I was guilty, and nothing I said would change it. I stood up and said I would not sit there and be interrogated when I was the one carrying this family's future. Then I went to the bedroom and slammed the door, shaking. The next day at work, the story grew in my head. By lunchtime, I was furious. At the break table, with a few coworkers around, I told my side. I said my husband had secretly met Maya for coffee to ask if I was cheating. I said he was so insecure that he pulled my junior designer into our private life. I made a joke that he was building conspiracy boards about my calendar. They laughed, some of them. One guy said that was intense. I said if he kept this up, I might actually give him a reason to be jealous. Maya sat by the microwave, holding her bowl. Her face went pale. She said quietly that she only spoke to him because she was worried. I told her she misunderstood what she saw and that she should focus on her design work and stay out of marriages she did not understand. My voice sounded sweet, but every word was a slap. The room went quiet again. Adrian walked in halfway through, heard the end, and frowned. After work, he pulled me into a small conference room. He said this situation could be dangerous for everyone. He said people were talking. He said we needed to keep things strictly professional and avoid any more confusing scenes. I heard the fear in his voice. He was already pulling away. I hated him a little for that. At home that night, Tom was not in the living room. I walked down the hallway and saw a glow under the guest room door. It was half open. He sat at the small desk with his laptop open, a notebook beside it. On the screen, I saw columns and rows, neat and cold. Dates, times, places. Late shift, hotel charge, missed calls, Uber 2348, Photo sent 21.12. Little lines of data tying my movements together. He did not see me at first. I watched as he typed a note. Maya statement, hotel lobby, hand on back, elevator. Something about the neatness of it made my skin crawl. It felt like he was turning my life into a case file. The floor creaked under my foot. He looked up. Our eyes met. He closed the laptop slowly, without snapping. He said we would talk later. I said if he was going to treat me like a criminal, maybe he should hire a lawyer and be done with it. My voice shook more than I wanted. I went to our bedroom and lay on the bed, staring at the ceiling, telling myself I was still in control of this story. The days after I saw his spreadsheet felt strange, like living in a house where someone had moved all the furniture an inch to the left. Nothing looked different, but nothing felt right. Tom stopped asking questions. That was the first thing I noticed. No more late-night talks at the table, no more quiet, tired, can we discuss this? He woke up, made coffee, packed Leah's lunch, and went to work. He was polite, careful, almost formal. It bothered me more than if he had screamed. One Saturday morning, we took Leah to the park. It was one of those small neighborhood playgrounds with a slide and a rusty swing. I wore my cute sneakers and a light jacket, ready to play the fun mum. Leah ran to the swings, calling for us to push her. I tried to take the ropes, but Tom was already there. He stood behind her, pushing gently while she giggled. I pulled out my phone and took a video for my story. I added a caption about doing it all, career queen and mom life. People needed to see I was still the hero here. Tom kept his eyes on Leah, not on me. He asked her about school, about her art show, about which friend she liked best. She answered in long, happy bursts. I tried to join in, but for some reason, she kept turning her head to look at him. On the bench, I scrolled social media. I posted a vague quote about men who run to strangers instead of talking to their wives. Cassie sent a heart emoji and typed that some men were too weak for strong women. I agreed, of course. I wanted Tom to see it later and feel called out. At one point, Tom's phone buzzed. He checked it quickly and slipped it back into his pocket. I saw just a piece of his screen, a calendar reminder that said, meeting personal. I teased him and asked if he had a secret girlfriend. He said it was nothing, just things he needed to sort out. The answer was too calm, too practiced. It annoyed me. On Monday, I noticed another small change. He left for work a little earlier than usual. He used to kiss my cheek out of habit. Now he kissed Leah's head and told her to have a good day, then gave me a simple nod. No argument, no tension, just that flat respect. It felt like a wall. I watched his location on the shared app we still had on our phones. He had set it up years ago, saying it was for safety in case of emergencies. It had always annoyed me. Now I was the one checking it. At lunch, he was not at the hospital like normal. His little dot sat near the main street downtown, close to a strip of offices and banks. I zoomed in, frowning. I told myself he was just running errands. Maybe he had to fix something with his car insurance. Still, my chest tightened. I left the office early, saying there was a client call I could take from home, and took a bus downtown instead. I told myself I was just curious, that if he could snoop through my life, I could snoop through his. I saw him before he saw me. He stood outside a glass-front bank branch, talking to a woman in a neat blazer. She handed him some papers and pointed to a line on a form. He nodded and signed something on a tablet. They smiled politely at each other. Then he stepped inside the bank. My mind jumped straight to money. I told myself he was moving things around to control me. I wondered if he was closing accounts, hiding savings, trying to cut me off. The thought made me angry, and that anger felt better than the quiet fear under it. When he came out, I walked toward him. He looked surprised but not guilty. He asked what I was doing there. I said I could ask him the same thing. I asked if he was hiding money. I asked if he was planning to abandon his family and leave me with nothing. I made my voice just loud enough that a few people turned their heads. He said he was simply making sure things were clear and organized. He said that in any situation, he wanted Leah to be okay and the bills to be paid. He said he was not emptying anything, just separating and documenting. That word, documenting, scratched at me. I told him it sounded like he was planning for us to break up. I asked if he had already decided to leave. He did not answer that directly. He said only that he was planning for different possibilities and that it was responsible. I said he was dramatic and cruel, that a real man would fight for his marriage instead of planning escape routes. He did not fight back. He just said he had to get back to work and walked away. Later that week, his dot on the map moved to a part of town we almost never visited. It was mostly offices, dry cleaners, and a dentist. The name of one building caught my eye when I searched it, a firm with family in the title. My heart thudded in my chest. I laughed out loud in my office chair, a sharp, ugly sound. Of course he would run to strangers and tell them his side first. I could not sit still. I told my manager I needed some fresh air and went out. I walked to that block, my heels hitting the pavement hard. I saw him through the glass doors of the building, sitting in a small waiting area with a stack of magazines on the table. His shoulders were straight, his face calm. He looked like someone waiting for his name to be called at the dentist, not someone plotting to ruin my life. I did not go inside. I stood across the street, watching. I told myself if I went in, I would look crazy. I took a photo of the building sign instead and sent it to Cassie. I wrote that he was probably telling strangers I was a monster. She replied that I should get ahead of him and make sure people heard my version first. That night, after Leah went to bed, I confronted him. I asked why he was visiting places like that. I asked if he was trying to take my child away. The words came out hot and sharp. He said he was talking to professionals about the situation. He said he wanted to do things properly and not make a mess. I said it was a mess only because he refused to let it go. I said couples work through things and that he was choosing to blow up our family because his ego was bruised. I said only cruel men tried to use money and rules to punish their wives. I felt clever when I said it, like I had found the right weapon. He did not rise to it. He said he would not argue in front of Leah anymore. He said he was tired of going in circles. He said he was focusing on what he could control. Then he walked away, leaving me standing alone in the kitchen. A few days later, I noticed a new folder in the small hallway cabinet where we kept bills. It was labeled household in his neat handwriting. Inside, the papers were stacked perfectly, copies of utilities, rent, school emails, health insurance. Everything was ordered and clear. On the inside of the cabinet door, there was a sticky note that said, "Bring forms," with a date next to it. My name was not on any of it, but I saw myself in every gap. I took a picture of the folder and sent it to my mother. I wrote that Tom was organizing his life like I was already gone. She replied that men always did that when they wanted control. She told me to make sure I was ready to fight for what I deserved. She said I should not let him walk all over me with his papers and his planning. My father called later. His voice was quiet. He asked if things were getting serious. I said Tom was overreacting and running to offices instead of working on us. My father said maybe Tom was just scared and trying to protect Leah. That annoyed me. I told him Leah was fine and that Tom was using her as a shield. Then Janet texted Tom in the family group chat, the one with both sides. She wrote that she was there for Leah and that whatever happened, they would handle it calmly and properly. My mother replied with a long message about how calm always favored the man who had silent power. The chat exploded into small arguments. I sat back and watched, feeling both attacked and important. At home, small details kept changing. I noticed his alarm labeled paper drop on his phone one morning when he left it on the counter. I saw a new key on his keyring. I heard the soft click of the guest room drawer locking when he finished in there. I told myself all of this was overkill, that he was playing some kind of long game to scare me. I still believed that if it came down to it, I could talk my way out. I was the one with charm, with words, with people who believed me. He was just quiet, careful Tom. I kept telling myself that. I clung to that picture of him, even as the small signs piled up around me like little neat stacks of proof. One morning, I woke up early to the smell of coffee and the clink of mugs. For a second, I thought things were normal again. Then I remembered the bank, the law office, the household folder. My chest went tight. I walked into the kitchen in my robe. Tom was at the stove, flipping pancakes for Leah. He had never done that before unless it was a birthday. Leah sat at the table, swinging her legs, and drawing little suns in the corner of her homework. They both looked up when I came in. Then Leah smiled and waved her fork. I said someone was in a good mood. Tom said he just wanted Leah to have a nice morning. His tone was even, friendly, like I was a guest. It bothered me. I preferred him angry to this strange politeness. After we ate, Leah went to brush her teeth. Tom asked if we could talk before work. He said it quietly, not like a demand, more like a meeting invite. We sat at the kitchen table. The light through the window made the room feel too clear. He said he did not want to keep going like this. He said he had enough information now to understand what had happened. He chose his words, like he was reading from a script, calm and slow. He said he believed I had been unfaithful. He said he had spoken to professionals and that they had advised him to focus on protecting himself and Leah. I felt my face heat up. I said I had never cheated in the way he was trying to frame it. I said it was one night, and it was mostly emotional, and that it only happened because he had checked out on me. I said maybe I crossed a line, but he pushed me there with his insecurity. He did not argue about details. He just said that for him, what happened was enough to break trust, and that trust was what marriage needed. He said he did not want to fight anymore. He said he was going to handle things properly now. That word again, properly. I asked what that meant. He said he would take formal steps. He said he wanted to make sure Leah had stability. He said he would not badmouth me to her, but he could not live like this. His eyes looked tired, but there was something steady in them I had not seen before. I reached for another tactic. I let my eyes fill with tears. I said we could go to counseling. I said I was under stress at work and made mistakes, but that it was his job as a husband to forgive and work through it. I said if he really loved me, he would fight for us instead of running to lawyers and folders. He shook his head. He said he had tried talking and asking and trusting. He said every time he brought it up, I turned it back on him, made him the bad guy, made him feel crazy. He said he could not do that anymore. He repeated that he would handle it through the proper channels. I accused him of giving up on our family. I said he was ruining Leah's life because his pride was hurt. I said he was using the word proper as an excuse to punish me. He listened without answering, then got up to get his bag. Leah came back to the kitchen, backpack on. Tom smiled at her and said Grandma Janet had asked if she could spend the afternoon with her. Leah cheered. She loved Janet's house. She asked if I was coming too. I said I had work. I said maybe later. I looked at Tom. He said he would drive Leah first, then go into work. On the way down to the car, I forced myself to be sweet. I took his arm and said we were overreacting. I said people made mistakes. I said we were stronger than this. He gently took his arm back and opened the car door for Leah. That small distance felt like a slap. In the car, Leah babbled about her art show. She asked if both of us would be there. I said, of course, that we were a team. Tom said he would always show up for her. The difference in the wording stung. Halfway to Janet's house, Leah got quiet. She asked if we were mad at each other. I laughed and said Daddy was just being dramatic, that adults sometimes disagreed. I asked her, in a light voice, if she would be sad if Daddy lived somewhere else. She frowned and looked down at her shoes. Tom's hands tightened on the wheel. He told me not to ask her questions like that. His voice was still controlled, but there was steel in it. I said I had a right to know how my own child felt. I said I needed to know who she would choose if it came to that. He said it was not about choosing. He said she was a child, not a referee. Leah pressed her forehead against the window and watched the houses go by. When we reached Janet's, Leah jumped out and ran to the front door. Janet opened it, hugged her close, and kissed her hair. She smiled at Tom and asked if he wanted to come in for coffee. He said he could not stay long. She nodded, then looked at me. The smile faded a little. She said hello, but did not invite me inside. As they walked in, Leah turned and waved. I lifted my hand and smiled. Tom put his arm around Leah's shoulders. The picture of them together in the doorway made something twist inside me. My mother's voice echoed in my head, telling me never to let a man take my child away from me. On the drive back, I stewed. I told myself Tom was trying to turn Leah and his mother against me. I told myself his proper plan was just a way to control the story. I decided if he was going to take the formal route, I would own the public one. At home, I opened my phone and posted a long message about how some men responded to one mistake by planning to abandon their family. I wrote that, instead of talking and forgiving, they ran to lawyers and banks. I never named him, but it was clear. Friends commented with angry faces and support messages. Cassie sent a flurry of texts, calling him weak and telling me to be ready to flip the script if he tried anything. A bit later, my mother called. She said if Tom was really talking to legal people, I had to protect myself. She said I should gather my own messages and proof that he was cold and distant before the hotel thing. She said men only won if women stayed quiet. I let her words sink in, but deep down I still believed he would not actually go that far. Tom always backed down before. That afternoon, he came back to the apartment to grab some files before his shift. I was sitting on the couch with my laptop open, pretending to work. He stood near the doorway, hands in his pockets. He said he saw my post. He said he wished I would stop turning our private life into a show for my friends. I snapped back that he started it by talking to Maya and some stranger in an office. I said if he brought outsiders in, I would too. I said people needed to know what I was dealing with. He sighed. He said we were past the point of trying to fix the story. He said again that he would handle it properly. Something in his voice made my throat go dry. He left without another word. When the door closed, the apartment suddenly felt too big and too quiet. I tried to focus on my screen, but the letters swam. I checked our shared calendar. A new event had appeared for the next day at 10 in the morning. Meeting workplace concerns. The organizer was HR from my company. My chest tightened. I told myself it was about the client, or some general policy update. Still, the timing felt sharp. Right after his visits to banks and offices, right after his quiet properly, now HR. The next morning, I dressed more carefully than usual. A fitted blouse, good trousers, subtle makeup that still said I was in control. On the way out, I noticed his car keys were not on the hook. I checked the app. His little dot was near my office, not at the hospital. My heart started to pound, but I forced a smirk onto my face. I told myself he was trying to scare me, that he wanted me nervous. I would not give him that satisfaction. When I drove into the underground parking garage, I saw his car already there in a visitor spot, clean and square under the white light. My phone buzzed as I turned off the engine. A new email from HR slid down my screen. Reminder, 10:00 a.m. Meeting, workplace concerns, attendance required. In the lobby, the air felt thick. HR waited near the security desk, hands folded. Next to her stood Tom, a man I barely knew, and a stranger with a folder. HR said there had been reports about my relationship with Adrian and that they needed to talk. Tom's voice was calm as he said he had provided information relevant to the company and to family court. The stranger handed me an envelope. divorce petition, adultery named, temporary custody, with Leah living mainly with him. People watched. Adrian stepped back. Tom said he was handling it properly and walked away.